Afternoon, Ilya. How you doing?
Hello. How are you guys? I'm good. Greetings from Redmond, Washington.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. We're just giving people a couple more minutes just to walk in. As you can see, uh, we've got the streaming across multiple booths across the Integrate Expo, which is super exciting. So, whilst we couldn't have you here in person, Ilya, we're super excited to have you here on virtually.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And I have not been to Australia in a long time. I'm trying to remember, I think 2003 or so. And so I really wanted to go. I just couldn't make it work. But I still have hope of getting down there sometime. Who knows when with travel budgets and stuff. But
Well,
I was
there's always
definitely
Integrate
enjoy.
2024.
Exactly. Fair enough.
No, it's good to see you. Good to see you. We'll get started in just probably about 30 more seconds. So there's a couple of vendor booths that are going to be joining as well. So not only are you up in our meeting rooms, where obviously you can't see the audience, but we've got a sea of people sitting here in front of me, as well as also out on the floor as well, and a couple of virtual attendees as well that wanted to make the session.
Sounds great.
Alrighty.
I'll stay nice and quiet until you're ready to go.
Not a problem. Alrighty, we might jump into it.
Sure.
There we go. So we'll open today with opening up with acknowledgement of country. So we'll start off by I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are all meeting on today, across Australia and New Zealand. Pay my respects to elders both past, present, and future, for they hold the memories and the culture of the dreams of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I also acknowledge Team New Zealand who are here today, physically, spiritually, and culturally. Kia ora. So yeah, welcome everyone. This is we're kicking off Integrate. We're starting off by welcoming everyone and really launching with a headline speaker today. We're so fortunate to have Ilya join us, and we're going to be having a bit of a fireside chat. Ilya, I do have a little chair sitting here for you, but that's
Thank
okay.
you.
I understand that it will be empty today, but it's again, pleasure to have you. For those who don't know me, my name is Andrew Higgs, or most of you know me as Higgsy, and I'm the partner strategy lead for the Teams Rooms business across Asia. Yeah, we have the pleasure of being joined by Ilya Bukshteyn. Please, Ilya, give us an introduction.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I have the pleasure and privilege of leading two of the product areas and businesses for Microsoft Teams. So I lead the calling, or Teams Phone is the product name, and devices areas. So my team works on everything around the user experience of using Teams as a cloud phone system, and then all of the purpose-built applications that go on purpose-built devices. Probably the best known is Teams Rooms, but of course we also have Teams Panels, Teams Displays, Teams Desk Phones. We build the protocols that other smaller devices like speakerphones and peripherals use to communicate to Teams. We do the certification of devices to ensure a high quality bar. We co-engineer or help from an engineering perspective our OEM partners with those devices. So everything having to do with Teams as a cloud phone system and Teams as on devices with devices is something I have the privilege of leading. And last thing I'll say is, just in that audience, I know are many of our partners, integrators, and of course customers. So thank you all for your bet on Microsoft Teams, and especially for your input, which we need critically to continue to make our products better.
No, thank you very much, Ilya. Again, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Just a quick reminder for you, Ilya. I sent you a gift in Pokemon Go. You haven't opened it,
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
No, it's all good. All good.
Since you brought it up, have you got the coveted Pokemon Go Plus Plus?
I have not.
To actually get this on eBay, the latest thing.
I'm going to have
horrible name. It's the Microsoft Pokemon Go Plus with another plus sign after the word plus.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. It's amazing brand naming right there. Pokemon Go plus plus. For those who don't know, Ilya is an avid Pokemon Go player, as I am myself. We're not ultra friends just yet. We're just best friends on Pokemon Go. Just for those wanted to know. Yeah, so today we're going to be. We had some exciting announcements come through in the last couple of weeks. And we might just kick off, Ilya, talking about the most recent one with the Windows app, which has got recent upgrade for version 4.18, and some super exciting announcements around that with IntelliFrame, IntelliFrame Cloud. Take us through these updates, Ilya, and just talk about some of the thought leadership here that went into launching this massive update.
Yeah, it really is a big release for us. We, although in many ways, like it's delivering on promises that we made earlier. So I sort of feel like, boy, we've been talking about this stuff for a while, and it's great to now have it out and in folks' hands. So the things it delivers on, first of all, it enables multi-stream video for IntelliFrame on edge. So what that means is devices that have their own AI that can send multiple face frame video streams can now do that. And the first two of those devices are, of course, the Yealink center of room device that we co-engineered with Yealink, and it runs our own AI. That's a device that we've been dogfooding here in my building in Microsoft for a while. And quite frankly, it's magical when you use it and you see not just people's individual faces, but also their names in the roster and under the video. We can follow people. So that's a fantastic experience. The other device that's going to be supporting that via firmware update shortly is the Panicast 50 from Jabra. Another great device. We're going to see many more devices as we get towards, later in this calendar year and early next year, start to support both the multiple video streams as well as the Face ID. And one thing I'll say about that is when you combine that with our audio intelligence, so in other words, when users enroll their voice and then their face with our cloud, and we have devices that can use both to recognize people, Copilot in the room becomes super compelling for customers. So when we've been able to show customers in our environment what Copilot can do for a meeting, including when there are multiple people in a room together, like I see, I don't know which vendor booth it is, it just says attendee 5 for me, but when there's
That's
multiple
Logitech.
people there, Logitech. So when there's multiple people in that room participating in a meeting, and when you then ask Copilot to sort of tell you who said what, it's critical to be able to identify people. So when we have devices like you'll hear more news about Logitech sites supporting multi-stream video, and together with Rally Bars supporting speaker identification from intelligent audio. You'll hear that in the next few months. But when we have those kinds of devices, it really brings Copilot in rooms alive. And we think that's going to be super, super important. So that's part
awesome.
one. Now, part two is we also realize there's a lot of devices or rooms that don't have new devices with AI on the device. And so that's where Cloud IntelliFrame comes in. Now, one thing I've already started to get a bunch of questions about is, why can't I get Cloud IntelliFrame working with this new app? We very specifically said, if there's a camera that can do its own AI, we disable Cloud IntelliFrame. So with Cloud IntelliFrame, it is specifically for rooms that have certified cameras that do not have their own face framing AI. For those rooms, including, by the way, since you told me attendee 5's Logitech, when the cameras can do group framing, i.e. rally camera, we still can then do even better face framing on top of that using IntelliFrame in the cloud. So that's another great feature. I'll also sprinkle another nugget. I already got feedback
We love
this
the nuggets.
morning. Yeah, I got feedback already this morning that the way Cloud IntelliFrame works is it's for the remote end. So if a room is capable of cloud and teleframe. It's the remote participants seeing that room video that can right click on it and say, turn on, it's on by default, but disable cloud and teleframe. Well, what has happened is, of course, hey, what's up with your camera in the room that I'm seeing everyone's faces? Well, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. My preview doesn't show me that. So a little bit of a disconnect. So we will be addressing that. Not sure if it's by end of this calendar year or early next. It depends which release train it makes it on. But we'll be adding a watermark to Cloud and Teleframe video to say Cloud and Teleframe is on. And we'll be changing the in-room preview to show the Cloud and Teleframe version and not the whole room view, so that people in the room know that remote participants can have Cloud and Teleframe turned on. So that's another key deliverable, Cloud and Teleframe, that we'll keep making better and better. And then you mentioned, I think you mentioned Front Row. If not, I'll mention it.
Yeah,
we delivered shared background for Front Row. Now, that's something we promised for a while. I think it makes Front Row dramatically better because it reduces the mental sort of dissonance that you get if everyone has a different background. Feels much more like people are in the room with you. Now, for that, I already again got a question this morning. Hey, why does System XYZ not have that option turned on? And it's because there is a minimum CPU requirement for that. We'll be clarifying that documentation shortly. Really not an issue for most MTR systems, except I'd say quite old ones that are officially out of support already. But yeah, that does use local CPU to do that reverse segmentation. So that's the other really big feature that was in 4.18. That was a very long answer to your short question.
No, to be fair, there's also so much packed into this update. So again, one of the things that you highlighted there was just the importance around, how Copilot is going to have an important role when enabling these meeting spaces with intelligent cameras and so on. And so getting that narrative right with our customers and making sure that we're fitting out these meeting rooms with intelligent cameras and AI capabilities, so that when that wave of Copilot does come through, we're setting up these rooms for success. The customers are already on that front foot, ready to move forward. The other thing that I was also really, really happy to hear out of that was, that segmentation with video in the Front Row. So currently, if you've been playing around with Front Row today, you'll see that the backgrounds of everyone is it's using their virtual backgrounds, but now having that single grayscale background, removing the distractions, really making sure that people are framed at the right height so that everyone's at the same size is going to be super beneficial for those that are using Front Row. So if you haven't seen Front Row, I'm sure many of the partners here have seen Front Row. We've got the room just further down, our other Microsoft room. We have set it up as a signature Teams room.
And I forgot, by the way, spatial audio for Front Row. I don't know how I forgot it, but I forgot it. So the other thing we shipped is support for spatial or stereo audio. And very simply what that means is in Front Row, if we have an audio system that has a left and right, we will match when someone's speaking, we will match the output to where their video is shown in the gallery, which is, of course, a row. Again, sort of, you could say, it's kind of a small thing. Really reduces mental dissonance because the sound is coming from where you're looking when someone is speaking. And it, in our testing, has made a big difference for kind of how natural the meeting is for people.
It's also just as important. Spatial audio, absolutely fantastic update. I sent through the registration form. Everyone had the opportunity to bring forward some questions, and I had about 35 questions come through. And I'm obviously conscious that we don't have much time with Ilya. I'd love to ask them all, but I've basically narrowed them down to the top 10. And a lot of them are talking about AI. And Ilya, is there anything that you can share with us? I mean, obviously, with us just launching 4.18, it's great to see intelligent cameras and IntelliFrame come to life. There's so much more talk about AI coming through, and using Teams Premium as well. For calling meetings and devices, what do you reckon the next big thing is for AI? Is it in the management layer, or is it in the devices themselves? What's next for AI in Teams?
So let me answer that for calling and devices, my areas, and I'll maybe talk a little bit about meetings separately. So for calling devices, first of all, we think there's a ton more that we can continue to do on audio and video AI. So as I mentioned, audio AI, intelligent audio, knowing who said what, we want to bring that, frankly, to every space in the world. That means we started with a very specific center circular microphone array. We're now bringing that to front of room arrays. We're going to look to enable that with those devices connected to Teams desktop, not just Teams rooms over time. Our ultimate goal, and I'm not stating a time frame here, is to enable who said what from any space with any device. So again, super important for Copilot. For video, similarly, we think we can build on what we have with Cloud and Teleframe and add a lot more of the capabilities that we have in Edge and Teleframe, meaning we can start with Cloud and Teleframe to also know who said what and put names under faces, potentially do multi-stream video. So those are all things we're investigating. Now, underneath all of that is, of course, the need for people to enroll their voice and face. And we know anytime you need enrollment, that's a task that someone has to do. So we're thinking a lot about how do we encourage people to do that? How do we say you have a meeting coming up in a room that has an IntelliFrame camera? You may want to enroll ahead of time. There will be some pretty exciting capabilities announced at Ignite outside of rooms, just with your personal laptop that use audio AI that we think will also encourage people to enroll. Ultimately, what we're looking at is, can we do more automated enrollment? So can we say, you were in a meeting, we know you were there through various ways, we know what your audio sounded like, maybe you used your laptop. Would you like us to use that to enroll in the cloud so that next time we know who said what, even if you're in a meeting room? So those are all things we're working on, is just to eliminate the friction and to continue to offer more AI value both in rooms and outside of rooms for audio and video. Now, for video also, I think I've said this at a couple of conferences, I think a lot of rooms are going to end up having multiple cameras because there's only so much you can do with one front of room camera. Those multiple cameras may be all sort of bundled together, if you will, in the front of room, just facing different directions. They may be bundled together in the center room. They may be, as our Logitech friends and others have shown, some at the front, some at the center. They may be front and back. When that happens, we think we can do a lot more interesting and smart things in the cloud. So again, building on what we have with Cloud and Teleframe to add more of a cinematic set of experiences and an AI-powered sort of a virtual director, if you will, for that scenario. Again, not saying any time frame, but that's another area we're thinking about. Now, everything I've talked about so far is sort of for user experiences. And I've mentioned, by the way, that I've highlighted calling and devices. Of course, for meetings, we've shown publicly the intelligent meeting recap that is part of Teams Premium. That's AI powered. And then the full meeting Copilot and meeting business chat in Teams. And those have received, I would say, very positive customer feedback as AI-driven or large language model-driven, really, end user experiences. At the same time, we think there's a lot we can do with AI that is around the sort of IT and manageability benefits. So if I go back to audio and video AI, just the meeting I was in right before this, we were talking about, hey, can we use those capabilities to self-test on the device? Because one of the challenges we have is in more complex rooms, when there's something between the Teams room and the camera or the audio, like a DSP extender, we really don't know if the end device is working, if the camera is working, the mics are working. What we know is they're connected or not. And of course, we can alert if they're connected or disconnected. But we don't know if the camera's actually seeing people. Like at the limit and most simplest, we don't know if a lens cap has been left on the camera and everything is black. That's an actual, error that we had escalated to me at one time. But using AI, we actually could know. We could sort of understand, hey, we're getting a video signal, but it's all black. Or we're getting a video signal, but we're not seeing people. We're getting a video signal that's not seeing people and an audio signal that's hearing people, or vice versa. So I think there's a lot more we can do to make our sort of self-test and resilience and alerting smarter by building on the audio video AI that we have. Then we can also apply Copilot-like experiences to help administrators, but also, by the way, to help people even before they get to rooms. Natural one is help me find a meeting room that's available for however many people I have in the meeting and in this vicinity. That's a great sort of a chat GPT powered experience that I think, we could all foresee delivering using the signals that we have from Teams panels and rooms to know kind of who's where, even if a room, by the way, is not bookable. Like we can know, hey, there's people in this room, getting a people count from our system, therefore not a room we should say is available. And then in the Pro Portal, being able to use natural language queries to say, show me all the rooms that have had a hard disk error in the last few days, where also the CQD, the meeting quality data from those rooms has been less than a certain threshold. And being able to have that natural language interaction with the Pro Portal is something else that we're working on for the long term. So those are just a few examples where we're pretty excited about what AI can do to improve both the user experience and the IT experience.
It's really exciting to see how that management layer is going to be evolving over time, particularly with the Pro Portal and new features coming to the Pro Portal. Pro Portal is ultimately
very, very excited, and stay tuned for Ignite. A lot of folks have been waiting for OTP, one-time passcode, and autopilot support on MTR in Pro Portal. Stay tuned for Ignite, my friends.
I think there's going to be a lot of excitement, about Ignite. There's lots of other Microsoft announcements coming at Ignite as well, relevant to this space. So definitely make sure that you attend some of the sessions at Ignite coming up very soon. So one of the questions that we had come through, Ilya, was around Teams rooms on Android and Teams rooms on Windows, and the feature sets and how they're different, and that gap. How do you see that playing out in the next 5 years? Do you reckon that feature set's going to narrow, or do you reckon it's going to change, or is it going to? What's your views on the feature gap?
Well, 5 years is an eternity in our business.
It is.
So I think what I can talk about is in the next year, maybe 3 years. 5 years is
too far.
Boy, really hard to predict. So let me give you some context. The challenges we have had is that Android, on the customer side, has delivered from our partners some very sort of compelling and simple form factors. Hey, everything is in one bar. But on our side, it's frankly required a lot more work to support all the different SoCs, to support consistent media quality on those SoCs, to support the variety of OEM-specific implementations. So we have a lot of investment in Android. We're going to continue, by the way, to up that investment as much as I can within the sort of constrained macroeconomic environment, but I'm pretty confident we'll be adding more resources to our Android team soon. At the same time, we have a feature gap because we're not standing still on Windows. So think about it as Windows started off ahead. We have a group of people continuing to invest in Windows. And even though we're adding resourcing more and more to Android, we have more work. It takes more work to implement a given feature across all the platforms. So the reality of that situation is, as much as I would love to sort of snap my fingers and say there's going to be complete feature parity, that is just not the reality over the next year at least. Now, that could change in the 3-year time frame, and I'll come back to things we're looking at to hopefully change the game there. But I will just say that in the next year, you're going to see us next month come out with some better positioning that says Android is a great appliance platform where each OEM is responsible for the life cycle because we don't have control of that OS. So you need to, as a customer, talk to each OEM about how many major OS upgrades they plan to support and for how long. There is not the concept of plug and play. So they're not customizable systems. They are meant to be sort of end to end from that OEM. And we will have a set of, let's call it, more advanced capabilities that at the very least will be delayed coming to Android. So as an example, multi-stream video is something we'd like to bring to Android. I can't promise it'll be there in the next year. The intelligent audio, intelligent video, knowing who said what. Again, I really want to bring it there. I think it's critical for Copilot, but I can't promise when it's going to get there. Front row segmentation, frankly, probably will never come. No, I shouldn't say ever. For the next year, will not come to Android, the shared background, because there's too much variance in, we'd have to do specific work for each device on each SoC. So there's more advanced capabilities on Windows that in the next year won't get to Android. And we're going to position Windows as more of a platform versus an appliance. So if you're looking to do, let's call it custom complex rooms, the boardroom where you want to use multiple cameras and a DSP, that's something Windows supports, and we sort of get it for free with plug and play, something that's not there with Android. So we'll be trying to help customers understand the difference, doing that kind of positioning starting next month. Now, in the 3-year time frame, we did announce something that is sort of our bet on how we could maybe catch up faster on Android, and that is the Microsoft Developer Ecosystem Platform, catchy marketing name, or a different way that has been described as Android from Microsoft. So it is a Android open source platform, AOSP-based Android distribution that Microsoft will be delivering. There's a whole team, not within my team, but in our OS organization working on that. We've had conversations with lots of partners. We've announced Jabra is going to be the first, but certainly not the only or the last of those partners. And again, hope to have many more announcements at Ignite. But there, we hope to get the benefits of an OS team at Microsoft working on a standardized OS, just like we have on Windows. And if we can get that, and we can get more things built in at the platform layer in the OS, including, by the way, a standardized upgrade cycle, support for management from Microsoft, then potentially over the 3-year time frame, I could see us sort of getting to more equal feature gaps across, or equal in terms of features across both platforms, at least on devices that use that Microsoft Android platform. So something I would say it's something we aspire to, but certainly in this next year, I think the reality is that there's still going to be that more advanced feature gap. Now, 2 other things I normally get asked around this. One is management of Android devices in the Pro Portal. There, we do want to close the gap. Even if we have a difference in advanced capability, I think we owe our customers to have full management in the Pro Portal with as much capability as possible. Some stuff is, frankly, really hard. Autopilot would be one. But in terms of Pro Portal capabilities, we do have a plan to sort of catch up with what's already available in TAC by end of this calendar, and then in the first half of next calendar, sort of exceed that. And that includes, by the way, support in special clouds and government clouds. Now, the other interesting question I got asked, which frankly I didn't foresee, was, oh, hey, are we ever going to just stop working on Windows? Because people see way more new partners coming in Android. And certainly not something I foresee happening in the 3 or even 5-year time frame. I will say the majority of our team's rooms overall install base, vast majority, are Windows. When I look at new rooms being added, it's about 50-50 between Android and Windows. So we absolutely expect to continue investing in Windows. We work very closely with the Windows IoT team and partner. I just had a meeting with them, I think it was late last week, that we have regularly. We're partnering on that overall platform moving forward. So please do not mistake the number of partners that we have working on Android for any kind of disinvestment from our end in Windows on MTR.
We announced Max Hub recently, Ilya, that we're going into partnership with. Another vendor that's not Android; it's running Windows.
Yeah, and there's actually 2 parts, maybe 3 parts to that. We announced, since you prompted me, I will just leap off of that and talk about related things. So one, we announced that Surface Hub in the fall will be moving to Teams Room Windows software. And that means Teams Room's Windows will support touchscreen devices without having a console, or let's say console optional. And over time, we'll add some of the things that were sort of unique to Surface Hub, which we'll talk about at later events. Now, 2 interesting things about that. One, I think it's a great bet by Microsoft of Surface Hub on the same platform as MTR. It also is a great set of capabilities for MTR that you can expect to see other OEMs utilize as well. And so Max Hub is one of those that happens to have Windows-based touch devices, board devices. So you can expect to see more of those come to market. Now, the other thing about the Max Hub announcement was Max Hub was an instance of a new class of MTR that we announced at Inspire, and we'll say a lot more about at Ignite, and that is MTR upgrade kits for low cost, and specifically at $1,000 or less. The reason I think this is important is a lot of customers have said, look, we've deployed a lot of rooms as BYOD peripheral rooms during the pandemic, having some sort of camera, a display, and frankly, a lot of customers have said, we would love to make those into Teams rooms. Well, first of all, they said, we'd like to understand, are people using those rooms? So that was the BYOD Pro Portal announcement I made at Enterprise Connect, that any room, even if the room just has a display, will start showing up in Pro Portal, because we're going to get that signal off of Teams on the desktop. So when we see a set of devices, a display or a display and peripherals that look like multiple Teams users connect to it on a regular occurrence, we're going to show that in Pro Portal and say, hey, is this a room? Would you like to track it as a room? Do you want to say what calendar account this room is using? Connect those two. And then, of course, we can give you insights about that space, like utilization. Now, the second thing our IT customers have said is, well, for rooms, especially for rooms that get used a lot, we'd love to upgrade it to MTR, but budgets are tight. And when we ask, well, what makes that feasible? Frankly, the majority of customers would say, boy, if there was an MTR compute and console kit that could be $1,000 or less, there's a lot of rooms we would put that into. And so that's coming very, very soon. Max Hub is the first instance of that. There are other OEMs that I can't mention yet that we're talking about, and we hope to have a lot more to say about this at Ignite. But I think that's another sort of expansion of MTR Windows, where we're going to have a lot of very affordable upgrade kits that join systems that are already available on Android, because we already have a lot of great available. Rally Huddle is just one of those, like, great available bar form factors that can be added to rooms that only have a display at a pretty low cost.
Super exciting to hear that. Obviously, breaking into markets where BYOD is very saturated. I'm not just saying just in ANZ, but certainly in other parts of Asia where BYOD is very saturated. How do we, bring some intelligence into these spaces, and seeing new options come through is with low cost Windows compute is absolutely awesome to see. That's super exciting to hear. Last question I got for you, Ilya, before we open to anyone in the room that's got a question. So you mentioned Surface Hub and having Teams rooms running on Surface Hub. What does that mean for things like coordinated meetings? Is that going to change? What's happening there?
So we're working on a bunch of stuff for coordinated meetings. The top one that is going to make sense is MTR to MTR. So because Hub is going to run MTR software, so far coordinated meetings has been MTR to Hub only. And of course, Hub becomes an MTR. We have to have it be MTR to MTR. That's being worked on. The other thing that we're working on is making it more flexible, because a lot of Surface Hubs are on rolling stands. And a common scenario is, hey, we're going to have a meeting in there. We need a whiteboard. Let's pull that in. So making coordinated meeting much more flexible for that scenario. Those are the main two things. Now, the other thing I'll mention that we're also potentially studying is start straight into whiteboard. Like, don't just coordinate meeting join, but start with a specific sharing modality. I don't know if that'll make it. That's another thing we're working on. I'm not sure on timing. The reason that's so important, by the way, is there's a set of enhancements coming to the Microsoft Whiteboard that I'm just super excited about. We talked about already, and it is coming, the feature to just start a whiteboard even before you start a meeting. So that's going to happen when we support Surface Hub on MTR software. It's already there on MTR Android. On MTR Windows, I believe it's still coming. We might have already shipped it, but
you just got a woohoo from the room.
Okay, good. So that's coming. So you could walk up, start a whiteboard. Cool thing is, under the covers, we're starting a meeting. So you could be like, oh, hey, let's add Higsy in Australia. We could just type that in and go. And then, of course, you could save that whiteboard and share it automatically at the end of the session. The part that I'm very excited about also then is all of the enhancements to Whiteboard. Back in June, I believe, we announced Whiteboard Copilot, and I had an opportunity to see that demo and participate in it in our CEO Summit, and it's incredibly compelling. You're going to see and hear a lot more about that at some upcoming events. There's a Surface event that has already been publicized for September. You're going to see a lot more around Hub with MTR, with Whiteboard. You'll see more at Ignite. But I think Whiteboard on MTR, including MTR Windows board devices like Surface Hub, is a pretty exciting scenario.
That's fantastic. No, that's awesome. So many great things coming. We've got many of the large format display vendors on show today at Integrate, all showcasing Teams rooms. And
awesome.
It's just such a great thing to see. So thank you very much to those partners. We'll throw it over to the audience now. Is there anyone here that would like to ask a question for Ilya in the room that I'm in at the moment? Yep, Kayla, we've got a question over here. Hang on a sec. Here we go.
Hi, Ilya. The answer to this may be no, but are you able to let us know any more information around that Autopilot and Pro Portal integration for MTR?
I mean, you're going to see it in action at Ignite. Now, if you think about Autopilot, there's multiple pieces to it. There's us supporting it in the software and in the client. So there's the client, the portal, and then the very key piece is the OEM. There has to be an identifier baked into that image. So we are working pretty closely with OEMs. It will take some time because they have to refresh the image and then ship those devices that get into distribution and so forth. But we're actively engaged. You're going to see it on MTR Windows with Pro Portal. You're going to see it in action at Ignite.
That's
I don't
super
know if
exciting.
that answers your question, but I think that's the most I could say. I probably wasn't supposed to actually say that, but
there's always something, whether it be at ISE or at Infocom. All right, we've got another question from the audience with Justin.
With intelligent cameras, you alluded to earlier, obviously, you've just gone live with 4.18 and 2 intelligent cameras, the Jabra and the A-Link. With the existing cameras that do multi-people framing or whatever terminology you want to use, is there a time frame, or is there how do they get enabled and certified? Like, are we going to have to wait for 4.19, or once they're certified and the vendor releases specific firmware, they'll then work? And what is the estimated time frame? I know,
the estimated time frame is going to be different. Estimated time frame is going to be different for each OEM. So let me first of all make sure I am very precise. What we've enabled is for peripherals for MTR Windows to send multi-video streams. We have not delivered multi-video stream on MTR Android. For devices that can do face framing as peripherals for MTR Windows, we've released a set of APIs. It takes some time to implement those, but I was speaking with my friend Henry at Logitech earlier today. He's got a pretty good plan starting with around in the calendar year. So I think you'll hear more about that at Ignite. My friends at Crestron can do similar. So it'll take time by each OEM. There's work they have to do. It is not dependent on future client releases from us, which is not to say we won't keep enhancing the feature in future client releases like 4.19. But at this point, the OEMs all have what they need from us to do the work. I'm not trying to minimize the work. It's real work. It's real engineering. So each of them just have to slot that into their development plans.
That's a good question. Anyone else? Looking around the room. Come on, Phil. You got to have a question, mate. Phil Clapham is here. He's normally like burning with all the questions. I put you on the spot. Yeah, I'm going to give you the microphone now.
No. Actually, looking forward. Actually goes to Ignite. Ilya, you'll be at Ignite. Are you presenting any sessions?
I think so. So Ignite this year will have a larger in-person contingent set of attendance. Therefore, also more like in-person sessions. Marketing owns all of that. We've had a preliminary discussion with them. They are going to finalize soon how many sessions we all get and what they'd like me to talk at. So I expect that I'll cameo in some recorded sessions, and I think they said they'd like me to do at least one in-person one around converged communications. Certainly, by the way, I'm available for meetings with customers, and there's, I think, a tool that our field can use to request Microsoft executives for customer meetings at Ignite. So I expect I'll be there, but I don't know specifics quite yet.
Question, Ilya. My name's Peter.
Hi.
For you. Hi. That we've seen a lot of Teams rooms be deployed outside of meeting rooms in other hybrid work scenarios, industry scenarios, retail, school, hospitals, courtrooms. Is that a consideration that you have in the engineering process, in the product design process?
Well, we get a lot of feedback and input on those scenarios, including specifically from there's one professor who's in Australia who's been amazing at giving us feedback and input. I don't want to claim that we have done an amazing job by any means prioritizing those scenarios, just like within our backlog. Probably one of the most common ones that we have not been able to do is sort of multi-tenant support. Like at a lot of those scenarios, you have lots of tenants within one company and or one school or if it's a flex work environment. And so you want someone in one tenant to come in and quickly use a Teams room that actually lives in a different tenant. There's some real tough work on our part that has to be done around that we'd like to do, but I don't know when we can do it. There's a few other things we haven't been able to get to. But certainly I hear about MTR already being used in those scenarios. So if you think there's something really like egregious that we should be looking at, you should let me know, let us know. It's definitely, especially by the way, as we get into board style devices that can be rolled around, like it's a very common thing.
Already thinking about mobility solutions and how we can see Teams rooms on in small form factors on trolleys. That's immediately coming to my mind. We've got one more question from Justin, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure.
You mentioned
Is it
earlier.
that time already?
You mentioned earlier about AI from a pro portal point of view. What about remote access? Like, there's obviously Australia being a large country, and we've got MTRs all over the place, and it's sometimes not possible to do a truck roll.
That is a great tee up. So there's actually two parts, by the way, to that. One is enabling a partner to manage cross tenants in ProPortal, because many of you manage from multiple companies. Then the other is being able to do a remote session. Let's see, what can I say? So yes, absolutely a scenario we are actively working on in ProPortal. I just saw a very exciting demo internally of that work. I think you will see and hear a lot more about that at Ignite. On both those points, by the way.
Awesome. Now, again, another primer for Ignite. Ilya, thank you very much on behalf of everyone here at Integrate. We really value, obviously, your thought leadership and your insights, and that you share with us. And we are truly honoured to have you with us today. Any last words?
Well, I'll just say again, it's absolutely my pleasure and my honor. I value the partnership of all the partners. I think I'm in a Lenovo booth, if that's right. No, that's Jabra. I'm in a Jabra booth that happens to be across from Lenovo. I see a Logitech booth. I see a D10 booth, one of our newer partners.
EPOS?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot say thank you enough to all those partners for the partnership and for making great devices that get into the hands of our customers. I can't say thank you enough to all of the integrators and partners that get these systems installed, manage the systems. And I can't say thank you enough to the customers that have bet on Teams and Teams rooms. I want you to know we take your bets very seriously. I want to acknowledge, like, we've had some challenges. We know on Android we've had some challenges around console pairing and front of room systems. And I guess what I can say is we are working really hard to make sure to address any challenges and quality issues. Make sure we're delivering systems that are true mission critical, multiple nines of availability systems that could be easily managed in ProPortal, and they could be scaled to, frankly, at this point, thousands and tens of thousands of systems in a customer, because that's what we're seeing, and literally millions of Teams rooms worldwide, because that's a near-term goal of ours. So we take the responsibility seriously. We appreciate your bet on Teams. If there's things we can do better, hopefully you all know how to find me, LinkedIn, Teams, wherever. And again, just thank you for the opportunity and the business.
Thank you very much, Ilya. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you again.